Hi, I'm Mary and welcome to my channel. On this channel, I love to share with you how to make simple, cute things. And in today's video, what I'm going to share with you is how I painted this adorable springtime robin's egg bird nest. And it is indeed spring here in Middle Tennessee, as you can see out the window. The leaves have just come out and they're just beautiful, gorgeous green. So I hope you will gather your supplies, which I will share with you in the next part of the video, what you'll need. And I hope that you can sit down, take a little bit of time for yourself, relax, unwind, and paint with me. For our bird nest painting today, you'll need just several simple supplies, including a pencil and eraser, watercolor paper. This is cold press watercolor paper, and this one is about 6 by 8, but you could use 5 by 7, 4 by 6, or a whole sheet of paper, however big you'd like to have your bird nest. And then I'm using my Mungyo watercolor set, which I'll link below for you, but any watercolor set that you have is fine. Some fresh water, some paper towel, and a few brushes. I've got a number 10 Princeton round. I've got a number 6 Princeton round, and this is just a flat brush. I'm not sure that I'll even use it, but it's called Fine Touch, I believe. And this is a dagger brush that I received for my birthday from Dave, so I just thought it might be fun to try using just the point on it for the bird nest. But any brushes you have are just fine. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing that we want to do for our bird nest is to just lightly sketch out the placement of it. And if you look at this painting that I did for this video, it's like an oval here. So we're going to start out with a nice oval. And actually, I think I want that to be just a little bit bigger. Something like that. I'll get rid of a few of these stray lines. Can you see that okay? All right, so the perspective of this is that we're looking down into the nest, but we're not looking straight down. We're looking down from the side. So what that means is you're going to be able to see more of the nest in the front and less in the back. So we'll put, this will be the back of the nest, and maybe it'll be a little bit wider than that. And then the front of the nest will come down further, like so. So see that? All right, so we've got that sketch. So the next thing we want to do is sketch the placement of our eggs. And I'm going to maybe not do exactly like I did here. I might do slightly smaller eggs, because actually I wanted this to be a robin's nest and the eggs are pretty small. So we'll just put in something like that. And you don't usually see all I'm going to have 3. You usually don't see all 3 of them, the whole egg, because they're down in the nest. So we'll do another one here, and then we'll do a third one like so. Okay, and then we may in the end put a branch here, something like that, and then maybe some leaves here and here like that. So you get the idea that the nest is swaying on the tree. All right, so now that we've got that done, we can start painting. Now, when I first painted this, what I did is I painted the eggs first. There's so many different ways you can do this. You could also paint the nest first and do the eggs last. But I think I will stick with my process, the way I did it the first time, and we'll go ahead and paint the eggs first. Okay, so get a little water, and what I'm using in my Mungyo set is this pretty blue here, which is almost just like the color of a robin's egg. So let's do that. And we're going to start by just painting only one of the eggs, and just do like so. and we can leave some highlights, and we can also, in just a moment, we can take up some paper towel and add some more highlights. So we'll do that. And then I think we actually could paint this next egg here. We're just not going to paint it all the way up to that egg. So let's do that. We'll just go short of it. And the reason we can get away with that is because eventually we're going to add some shadows in here, and this will be a shadow. So we'll be going back in there with a darker color. Okay, and then we could actually do the same thing with this third egg. Although this one would probably be a little darker, so I want to add just a little bit of Payne's Gray in there. Well, that was a lot. Sometimes a little bit of a darker paint can really make a difference, so have to be careful on how much dark paint we add. So this egg would be just a little darker probably. That doesn't look much darker. Like so. Okay, so far it's looking pretty good, and we're being a little bit careful about not bumping up to each of the eggs. So I'm going to just wipe up this little bit here. You know, watercolor can be very forgiving. Most colors you can pick up with paper towel or with a wet paintbrush, so it's pretty nice that way. Sometimes it gets the reputation of being very hard to work with, but I think that it can be quite forgiving. So I'm going to take my paper towel and just wad it up, and I'm going to add a few more highlights in here. Something like that, and then we'll do a few highlights there. I think that's good, and we'll do a little bit here. Now I'm going to let this dry, and while this is drying, we can start to work on the bird nest. And actually, I think I'm going to use my flat brush for the nest to go around. You wouldn't have to, the round one would work just fine, but since I have it out, I think I'm going to do that. And so what I've decided to do, and what I did here, is I laid down a background color, like a base for the nest. So I'm using kind of a goldish color. You could do a light brown or a light orange. I'm using this kind of goldish color. So now I'm just going to work on the outside of the nest, and we'll just go around like so. Like this, and I'll get a little more paint. There we go. We're having a beautiful spring here, although it's been super rainy, but everything has budded out and it's so gorgeous. The different shades of green in the woods next to us, it's just like magic. I hope wherever you live, you're feeling some spring. I'm not quite sure how to help you with that. Oh my goodness, we have an echo in the room, and she's talking to me. Although I wasn't talking to her. Okay, so now I'm going to let this dry for just a few moments so that we can get back to work on the middle of the nest. So I'll be right back. If you take your painting and just move it a little bit under the light, you can tell if it's dry because you don't see any glistening. And if it doesn't feel real cool to you, then it's probably plenty dry enough. So what we're going to do now is paint the interior of the nest. And as you can imagine, it would be dark in between the eggs. They would cast shadows on each other, and it would be dark towards the bottom and a little bit lighter as we go up. So I'm going to use my number 6 round Princeton, and I'm going to get a nice darkish brown, and maybe add a little bit of Payne's Gray to it. And the reason I'm doing that is, well, first of all, I don't always like to use just a pure color from the palette. I like to mix colors a little bit. But secondly, Payne's Gray has a little bluish cast to it, and it just complements the eggs. So, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just touch in a little bit of this dark color in between the eggs, just ever so carefully, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to go around the eggs with it, right around the edge of the eggs. Just like that. What we're trying to do here with the dark colors is to add depth, so you get the feeling that the eggs are down in the nest. There we go. Now I'm going to get a dark brown. Actually, I'm going to get a lighter brown and a darker brown and just sort of mix them together. And then we can start working on the rest of the nest. Maybe a little extra water to it. Like this. I wonder what your favorite things to paint are. I love painting flowers, and I find that I love painting things from nature. I think that's my favorite. I like to do birds. I like to do little bugs, sometimes little animals like bunnies, and then I like to do like pretty ferns and just nice things in nature. Bumblebees. Okay, now this is starting to come alive. All right. Now we're going to do this a little bit in stages because we have to let things dry. Okay, so I'm going to let this part dry, and then we'll come back and we'll start working on the outside of the nest, and then we'll go back and work with our eggs. Now this is a very fun part. We're going to build the nest, and we're going to give it the impression of many twigs that are tightly packed in there and not in, well, in a formation, but of course they overlap each other and they crisscross. So we'll use some different colors of brown and like burnt umber, raw umber, like that. So I think I'll start out first with just some brown, and we'll just start putting in some different marks here for the twigs. It's amazing how birds can build these nests and how they hold up. I mean, they know what they're doing. Mother Nature at its finest. Okay, and we'll just go around with this color. All right, and now we're going to go back in with a brown, and we will kind of crisscross some of those lines. You don't want too much water or everything is going to start running together. So don't be afraid of being a little messy here. And it's okay if the twigs go off the side a little bit, because with a real nest, you're going to see some twigs out the side. It's not perfectly an oval or a circle. Okay, now let's add in some other colors. This is either burnt umber or raw umber. I don't know my colors super well. I have to look at the chart. Okay, and you have to be sort of careful about how much water you have. But this adds a nice, interesting color variation. Do you see that? I think I'm going to even add some Payne's Gray, a little bit of Payne's Gray to it, to the branches. Okay, and maybe a little bit more. Ooh, that one was pretty heavy, but that's okay. I can just blot it a little bit and it'll be fine. Okay, and some dark brown. You just keep going around, and I think what we're going to do is we'll eventually blend some of these colors together so it's going to fill in the background a little bit more. But I'm going to let this dry first. There we go. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to blend in the background a little bit. So I'm going to use my flat brush, which you could also use your round brush, but just with water, and I'm going to go around and just blend this a little bit, and it will also help to fill in the background. So we'll do it lightly, not too much water. It helps to blot it on your paper towel. You see how that's filling in the background? Just like so. And you can do the same with your round brush. Just like that. And when we let this dry, then we can add some more detail to the nest, to the outside of the nest. Okay, now that we have that, let's go back to the nest and let's darken up some areas. We don't have to wait for this to dry because we won't be touching that. So I'm going to go back to my Payne's Gray, and a little bit of brown I'll mix in with it. Get a nice rich dark color. But I prefer not using black. I just like to mix some nice dark colors. So let's go back in here and darken up some of this. Give it a little more contrast. Like that. We're kind of doing like what we did the first time around. Sometimes you have to go back in and darken it up a little bit. Then we're going to just take some fresh water and no paint on it and just blend that into the nest here. Kind of being careful not to touch the outside of the nest. I really, really appreciate you being here and watching my videos, and I hope that you're trying to do them along with me, or sometimes it's good to watch first and then try it on your own. That's what I like to do. Every painting, I think, is a learning process. Unless you've done a painting 1,000 times, I feel like each time it's I always learn something. All right, it's coming together now. I want to add a little bit more texture into the eggs, so I'm gonna not do that quite yet since this is wet. I'm gonna go back to the outside of the nest. It's a little bit wet yet, so I'm gonna use my dryer and just dry it off real quick. So now it's a matter of finer details. So we're going to add a little bit more texture to the eggs. I'm going to blend this so it's not quite so blunt. We're going to add some more texture to the nest. And also, I think I'm going to make this a little bit, I'm not going to make the nest as wide, I'm going to bring it in a little bit. So I think I'll start with that. I'm going to just take a little bit of this burnt umber. I made it a little bit, maybe too, there we go. Just make it a little less full, because I think that in a nest, the eggs would be pretty closely nestled to the sides. So that's what I'm trying to work on here. Now I'm going to get some Payne's Gray and start adding some more details to the nest. Just going around. I'm going to avoid that one spot right now since it's wet. Okay, and now I'm going to go in with some dark brown. Do a little bit of crisscrossing, but try not to make it look too regular, because of course birds just pack it in however they can. But we want to give it some nice texture and the feeling of it being twiggy. And we don't need to overwork it. I always have to tell myself, all right, it's done enough, we can stop. So I'm going to let that go. And now I'm going to go back here to the inside of the bird nest with my Payne's Gray and my brown, and darken this part up a little bit more. Darken this a little more. Get everything a little bit darker there to give it even more depth. Sometimes you just have to do this a few times. And then I'm going to just use some plain water to blend it out. Like that. Just plain water here to blend it out. Okay, I think it's coming together. Then we're going to work just a little bit on the eggs some more. I'm going to dry this and then we'll work on the eggs some more. Okay, now I am going to get my Robin's blue color again. And I'm going into here. I need to do this with very little water. And I'm going to just blend this a little more. I want to give the eggs a nice rounded look. And then just some water here. That's good. And then I'm going to use my dagger brush, and I realize that you may not have a dagger brush, but I got this for my birthday and it's pretty fun. It's got a nice point. So I'm going to use that to go in with some darkish brown, maybe this Payne's Gray, and I can add some finer lines in here. It's very fun, this brush. It's fun for doing leaves and petals. But this little pointy part is so awesome. I have some pointed brushes, but honestly, they're not as good as the point of this dagger brush. If you want to have like a nice, just a nice, you know, fine point. And it's not that hard to do it either. Okay, so I think this is about done. Now I'm going to add in some branch here. So I'll just get some dark brown, some Payne's gray, and we'll just add in a nice little branch over here. Kind of like so. We'll come back to this on the edge of there, and then we're going to put in some nice stems over here, or I shouldn't say stems, I should say branches. So we'll do some nice little branches over here, like that. And I'm going to use my dagger brush and get a few greens out real quick. This part, you're just given the impression of leaves. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that. We'll just do a few. I'm just mixing in some greens here. I'm going to just put in some little stems, kind of like more of a olive green. So let's get that. That's better. We'll just give the idea of some stems, and then we'll add some leaves to it, but they need not be perfect. We'll just do something like that. And we'll do a few on the other branch. We're just wanting to give the idea that the nest, the beautiful nest, is swaying in the tree. Use my dagger brush. Oops, I see I did a little dot there. I didn't intend. I can just blot that up with a paper towel. There, it's good enough. There we go. And I'm going to go back to this one little spot right here and blend this into the nest. And I'm going to blot that a little bit because it's quite a bit of water, and it also gives it a little texture that way. And I'm going to darken up the bottom of it a little bit because it would be like in a shadow on the bottom. So we'll give that a little shadow right there, and we'll just blend that out. And then if you wanted to, you could use a white gel pen or a white paint pen and add some little speckles to the eggs if you want. That's certainly optional. I think I will not do it on this one, but either way, it's super cute. So there we go. I hope you really enjoyed making this robin's nest and the beautiful little robin eggs. And I thank you so much for joining me. And if you think I earned it, I would love for you to give my video a thumbs up and I really would love to have you subscribe to my channel and be part of the family here. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.